Hello and welcome back to the MacGuffin tapes. I'm Michael, your number one Nicolas Cage aficionado, and I'm joined here by Ala, hater of things. How are you doing?
I am hating things. Was the highlight of my weekend was hating on lots and lots of things.
Perfect to impersonate the Grinch for the
Oh
Christmas
yeah,
season.
that is basically me. Actually, good point because I'm the one who always says that I don't like Christmas. So
Yeah, you should get a green outfit.
not a problem. My wardrobe is full of those, so
We are here today to talk about another movie. This time we're talking about J. Kelly, a movie
yeah.
by Noah Baumbach,
That
which,
that just came out on Netflix, although
yes.
previously it was at lots and lots of, or I mean, not maybe lots, but at some festivals.
Yeah, and for some reason I thought this was a comedy. Well, it is sort of a comedy, but I thought it was autobiographical, and that's not the case. So, yeah, I went in completely blind, other than knowing that George Clooney and Adam Sandler played in this movie. I wasn't even aware that Noah Baumbach directed this movie, who did now here we go again, forgetting names of movies and things. Um, what was the movie where with Scarlett Johansson, where they get
The
divorced?
Marriage Story.
Marriage Story. Yeah, that was a good one. How did you come about this movie, or why were you interested?
Well, I did know that it was a Noah Baumbach film. That is why I was interested in it, because Noah Baumbach is one of those directors with a name. So um, the previous few films of his I really enjoyed. I mean, Marriage Story, being one of them. So I kind of was really excited to see it. It ostensibly does claim to be a comedy. If you laughed while watching it, good for you. But yeah, I agree. It's claiming that it's a comedy is a bit of a stretch, I would
Yeah.
say.
Well, I did laugh out loud one or two times
All
when
right.
regarding some scenes with Adam Sandler, but yeah, other than that, maybe this is even more a comedy than Aziz Ansari movie we talked about.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I think that one had fewer
Mm.
laughs in it, but I
Yeah,
guess on the
I'm not
same level.
sure. I would just say that generally speaking, in Noah Baumbach's films, there is this dry humor to them, which usually I would enjoy, but in here I just didn't really see it. So that's, yeah, maybe one of the things that I can already say didn't work for me here.
Yeah, and please remind me, what are some of his other films?
So the films that I think he is probably most famous for, first of all, is Frances Ha with Greta Gerwig. That was also the film that kind of put Greta Gerwig on the map and why we know her today. And I mean, obviously now Barbie is a very big film that a lot of people talked about. So still the industry is kind of shaken by with the reverberations of this film. It's being lots of first things in cinema as well. So Frances Ha is probably the most famous film that I can think of. Um, the Maybe one of the other ones is Greenberg, although I'm not quite sure if a lot of people know about it. But it's one of his films where he collaborated with Ben Stiller, not the last time, maybe even not the first. Let me quickly see. Jesus Christ. You got me. Now I cannot remember names. Jesse Eisenberg. How would I not know that? Anyway, Then we have the few last of his films, the Meyerowitz stories, Marriage Story, and White Noise, which all of which I personally really liked. I mean, obviously, Marriage Story was got a lot of good reviews. Maybe not so much White Noise, although I did find it very good. And Meyerowitz stories, I also liked very much. I mean, it has this like neurotic Jewish family vibe that is just all the rage for me personally. So that was just my thing. So yeah, I kind of went into Jay Kelly hoping to see something like this. And I guess we'll continue talking about what happened to that later. Also, I think what we can mention is that he frequently collaborates with Wes Anderson. I mean, frequently, relatively, right? Because they're both busy directors. He was a co-writer on The Life Aquatic with Wes Anderson and on Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Okay, interesting to know because when I was watching the movie, and we'll get to, there's one sequence on the train where both of his managers, Laura Dern and Adam Sandler, are talking with Jay Kelly, and they were talking over each other a bit. And I was thinking, maybe this is Wes Anderson, although Wes Anderson, I think, is a bit more structured and a
Yeah.
bit more monotone. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe Woody Allen-esque, or I don't know, but this sort of dialogue where, yeah, multiple people are talking really quickly and over each other.
Yep.
So that I thought was a reference to, or similar to also
Um,
some other director.
I would say this is a very Noah Baumbach thing. His people talking over each other. It's something that you see in a lot of his movies, and that's what makes his dialogues very real and very relatable in a way, because a lot of the times I think people in his stories don't really listen to each other. They just say things and they don't hear what the other person is saying. I think that is actually very noticeable in, for example, the Marriage Story or the Merowitz stories, because there is a lot of this parallel communication where people just like talk at each other but not with each other.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought about this exact point that you mentioned while I was watching the movie and later doing my notes. But yeah, we can discuss it further once we get more into details. Yeah, I want to mention a couple of things before we discuss the plot and the themes. From the production, I didn't find a lot this time. I watched a couple of interviews that they did for Netflix because yeah, this is, I think, his, at least his, that I know of, his second collaboration with Netflix. It was shot on film, 35 millimeter film. They shot on locations in Europe and Tuscany. And the script is a collaboration with Emily Mortimer, who was also an actress. And then the important thing is, or for me at least, is the music.
Uh-huh, Nicholas Bertel.
Nicholas Bertel. Dario would know who that is.
Dario would go crazy.
Yeah, Nicholas Bertel is known for the music of Succession, but he also did the music for Moonlight and many other great films. I think the music in this one is really interesting, and I also watched a short video where he explained his process of creating the music for this movie. Maybe two things I found really interesting. One is that Baumbach requested that this soundtrack mimicked a sort of classical Hollywood cinema. And then the other thing was that for some tracks, Bertel composed the music in reverse or played the music in reverse. I think it's the Jay Kelly theme, and it's played in reverse when he's having the flashbacks. And yeah, though that creates a different kind of tone and emotion for those scenes. Whereas in some scenes, it is performed by string instruments and then it sounds more, yeah, upbeat and optimistic. And regarding the J. Kelly theme, he mentioned that he played it on a vertical piano for some scenes, and then at the end of the movie, he played it on a grand piano.
Right. No comment to that. I mean, I think the soundtrack was quite like probably the highlight of the film. It was very lovely and kind of this quirky quality to it as well, which kind of also makes me think a little bit of why Noah Baumbach would collaborate with Wes Anderson. There is this quirkiness to them both, I think.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of, well, it has this sort of jazzy influence, and that's why it reminded me a bit of La La Land. But yeah, of course, Britel, I mean, he uses piano frequently, and I would say I don't know if Succession is necessarily jazzy, but yeah, well, this soundtrack has a bit of a jazzy touch to it. I think that's it regarding my sort of production. And before we get into spoilers and a deep dive discussion, I had one question for you. And that is, what would be your alternative casting for the role of Jay Kelly?
Oh my
Who
God.
who else
Like,
could play this kind of very classical Hollywood royalty type of actor?
I feel like at this point, this role could be played by anyone. Like, no, I understand the casting choice, but I just feel like the role and the character were a little bit empty. And this is a very hard question to answer, like, properly, I feel like. I don't know.
I mean, I I understand why they cast George Clooney because George Clooney is for many people this sort of super well known and sort
Yeah.
of very, I don't know, has this classical flair to it and does all these Nespresso commercials
Yeah.
and is sort of very tanned and yeah, it's someone you would
Well,
think of.
let's just say the essentials of this character is being universally known. I would say probably arguably George Clooney is well known even among people that are not necessarily very interested in cinema, among people that don't watch a lot of things, but he is a very popular and very well known actor. He is also in this age group that would kind of warrant having an identity and middle life crisis like the characters having. He is also very good looking. He's a good looking actor and he aged really well or continues to age really well. So whoever fits this profile, I think could be a good fit for this role. I cannot think of it off the top of my head, but also I think what is important is that he has a good image. He's not known for any scandals. He was not ever really involved in anything like that, I think. So it would need to be someone like that. Maybe he is unique in this category and in all those fitting all those criteria that we just named. But I'm sure we could find someone if we were looking.
Yeah.
He does fit the role well. That is probably true.
Image was the word I couldn't think of, but I think that's crucial for this role that he has this. Yeah, like you said, he has a good reputation,
Yeah.
wasn't part of any scandals, but also I feel like he is known to be very charismatic and that he is always surrounded by other actors or is good friends with other actors and well connected and so forth. I
Mhm.
read two things that are sort of conflicting. Noah Baumbach said that they originally thought of George Clooney when writing the script, but then some on IMDb I read that they also had thought of Brad Pitt for casting
Yeah,
him in
I
the role.
thought about it. I That would be kind of the first person that I would think of because that's one of those people that definitely fits the category of being very well known,
Yeah.
also aging very well, not being involved in scandals, less so. But he also doesn't really give off the same vibe as George Clooney. George Clooney is a little bit less like aggressively sexualized in a way, like Brad
Hmm.
Pitt really was like a sex symbol. And I feel like that's not really part of the character here. Um, so yeah, I think Brad Pitt probably I wouldn't really see him in this role, but I'm sure he could pull it off.
I think that they are both good friends as far as I know of.
Oh yeah.
Who I was thinking about was has this maybe a similar kind of image or status is Tom Cruise, maybe, although he hasn't done anything outside action movies for
Yeah,
the last couple of years, or I don't know, 10 years, or I don't know how long it's
probably
been.
more.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Leo DiCaprio also has this sort of classical image, although he has been playing more, let's say, like he's more of a character actor, I would say, these days.
Mhm.
And then I was thinking, why couldn't this have been a woman? And then if you go there, then why not? It could be someone like Meryl Streep, who is probably one of the
Yeah.
most well-known actresses.
Hmm. Yeah, I think would be interesting to look at it from that perspective, actually, if it was a woman, because obviously then a lot of other dynamics would come into the picture, like with motherhood
Hmm.
instead of fatherhood here, because obviously, I mean, in the patriarchy we live in today, it's not really that necessary to be a good father.
Mm.
And it wouldn't be looked down upon as much as being a bad mother, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like this part could have been a woman. I mean, I feel like that there aren't any very male specific or traits that get discussed in this movie could apply to either man or woman. So,
yeah.
yeah. Hmm?
If we are already on the cast, let's go on with the rest of it.
Go
So
ahead.
the supporting actors in this film, I think the most prominent ones are Adam Sandler and Laura Dern, which Adam Sandler is stealing the show. He is definitely the
Totally.
highlight I mean, I would argue he's the highlight of the whole film,
Yeah,
and not only
agree.
just the casting area of it. All the good scenes in this film, he is in them, and he's just doing a tremendous job, just like he does every time he gets really a dramatic scene. And we've known actually for a while that Adam Sandler is a great dramatic actor, although initially we've all known him as a comedic actor from comedies, but he is great. And if anything makes this movie worthwhile, it is him.
Just a note on Adam Sandler that actually he sort of underplays it in this film. He's not very flashy or loud like in some of his
Mhm.
other roles. So yeah, if his other recent movie where he was very well, or the movie that was very well received was Uncut Gems, but there he played a more like neurotic guy or louder. But here he's like yeah, a bit. He underplays it a bit, and
Mhm.
but it's a nice counterpart to George Clooney, and definitely he steals the movie for me as well.
Yeah, well, the other noticeable or noticeable people worth mentioning, obviously Laura Dern kind of plays also quite a big role in there. In general, I would say the cast is again very starstruck, and maybe we've talked about it before, but at this point, I feel like whenever the cast is too flashy, I feel like at this point it's like it is means to mask some deficiencies or distract you from some points that are not being made. And I could feel that so well in this film because in every single scene you have at least two people that are just huge stars, be it George Clooney and Adam Sandler, or Adam Sandler and Laura Dern, or um, Jim Broadbent. There's just so many people. Even in the smallest of roles, the biggest stars are cast. And it was a bit annoying almost at times because even there's like the tiniest role that Isla Fisher has in this film, and she's there for all of 30 seconds, and it's just like, okay, you have money, I get it. I don't know, it's just like
Yeah.
I feel
For
like it's really trying to distract you from some things that are not there, but probably should be.
For me, it wasn't that distracting because I mean, yeah, all of these actors are known to cinephiles like us, but maybe in comparison to something like Wes Anderson and The Phoenician Scheme, I mean, there we have some really big A-listers like Tom Hanks and Scarlett Johansson and you name it. But yeah, of course, someone like Laura Dern and Isla Fisher and Patrick Wilson are also very well established actors. But I feel like Noah Baumbach is also one of these directors where actors just kind of want to work with him and is someone that attracts actors. So I don't know if it's that much about money, although maybe if Netflix is paying, then they do have some money.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously they're not doing it for out of goodness of their heart. I'm sure it's nice to collaborate with certain directors, but ultimately it's also about money, I'm sure.
Something interesting that I found out while watching these videos is the casting directors talked about their decision, how they chose specific people for some roles, for certain roles. And one example was Stacy Keach, who plays Jake Ellis' father.
Mhm.
And what they mentioned is that they always wanted to have a different energy to someone in the scene so that it's not always the same tone. And yeah, for example, they mentioned Stacy Keach as the father, who is a bit more, yeah, who has this aggression or I don't know,
Domineering
this,
presence.
yeah, domineering presence. And the other one is we mentioned him before is Patrick Wilson, who plays this very sunny Hollywood kind of actor,
Hmm.
who is very well in some senses different to Adam Sandler's characters Ron. Um, so yeah, that I think that was interesting that they pointed that out. And yeah, I think if you want, we can start
Oh
discussing the
God, do
movie.
I want? Because to be honest, I don't even want to recap the plot because I'm feeling bored just thinking about it. But we can. But if you haven't seen the film, maybe don't listen any further yet and come back when you have.
Maybe then I'll start with another question just to get into this movie is I guess I'll start with this one. Something that we addressed in our last show, and this is how did this movie make you feel?
Oh, bored. It made me
Bored.
feel really bored.
That's not
Um,
good.
that's not great. I mean, I really tried, but there were just I don't think it made me feel much, really. I wish I could say I hated it or I loved it, but I really just didn't care either way. So I feel like the only word that can describe my experience with it is I was bored with it.
Yeah, interesting. So I think for me that was also the case in some parts, but funnily I couldn't turn it off. I don't know why. I just kept watching.
You know, me neither, but the reason for that was because I knew we were going to talk about it. If it was my choice and we didn't say we were going to talk about it, I would turn it off probably one-fourth of the way in.
Yeah, but for me, something kept me going. Something had my curiosity, although I don't know if it had my attention.
All right.
Uh,
This
uh,
is not a Nicolas Cage quote. This doesn't count. This is a Leo quote.
Nicolas Cage would be so disappointed. But I guess if we're going in the rankings by meme lords, then Leo is still all right. He's second place. So yeah.
That's true.
Um,
Especially now after one battle after another.
yeah. I was a bit irritated by Jake Kelly's character, I have to say. Like, yeah, I think irritated is the word. Like, show some guts or make a decision. Or yeah, he's very hesitant and doesn't take a step in any direction. It feels like. I think irritated is the right word. And then I mentioned I was laughing at some scenes where Adam Sandler was in. But I also really enjoyed watching the beautiful sceneries, like in they have some nice location shots
Hmm.
of Tuscany, and I think we get a very brief shot of Paris as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of visuals, the film is really good. I mean, there are
Hmm.
definitely a lot of scenes with beautiful scenery, but yeah, does this add to the plot? No, not
Yeah.
really.
So then, let me ask you another question, so that we don't have to go into the plot a lot, but can talk
Well, I mean,
about.
maybe we can just recap quickly that it is kind of a very sentimental meta film about an aging actor who now reflects on his life as he is kind of on the journey to receive his lifetime achievement award, which is very
Yeah.
symbolic in this journey. And as a side gig, he also goes through a midlife crisis and stalks his daughter through Europe, who is going on a trip with her friends. And generally, what we find out about him is that he has lots of people around him. That's also kind of is reiterated several times through his daughter that he's never alone. But he is never alone, but he feels really lonely because he has lots of people around him, but all his relationships are very transactional. And he has neglected a lot of his relationships, including his relationship with his daughters.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great that you point out this melancholy. But yeah, regarding the plot, it's basically a journey through. Well, you said it through Europe, where he has to solve these internal issues. But yeah, the melancholy is interesting because I feel like this movie is a bit in lines of something other directors have done in recent years. Two movies come to mind. The first one is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the other one is Babylon
Mm,
by Damien Chazelle. And I think there are some other examples of that, movies that reflect a bit on the filmmaking process,
yeah.
and yeah, are
I
a bit
think
enamored with this Hollywood filmmaking.
I think the film that it gets mentioned very often in the same breath as Jay Kelly, not from the perspective of how good it is, but from the perspective of just how it's made and what the story is 8.5 by Fellini. So it's kind of more or less the story of how I think there it's a director that kind of reflects on his life, and there are scenes that kind of mix, and you cannot tell what is the reality anymore. And that's how this one is structured a little bit as well, because we see some flashbacks that are built into the story.
Yeah, I haven't seen 8.5, but there's another movie which yeah, is a bit similar regarding the themes as Cinema Paradiso.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. But yeah, regarding Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thought the opening sequence was a bit similar. Namely, when I thought it was really nice that we were shown the movie set, and yeah, we were led around with the camera around the movie set, and it's very dynamic, and we hear different voices explaining what's going to happen in the scene they're about to shoot. And I think we see Jay Kelly first behind, or he's in a tent, so we just see his silhouette. And then what I relate to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is when they actually set up the camera for the shot in the actual movie. That yeah, I thought that was beautiful. That it's a set, but it looks like New York. And then Jay Kelly starts doing the scene, and then the dogs comes in, and then he says, "Oh no, the timing of the dog is wrong. Let me start again." So that's a bit similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Leo does this long scene, and he messes up, and then they go again.
Yeah, I think this scene, the very beginning of the film, is probably one of the things that I actually did like. I just generally like the theatrical elements in film. So whenever it's something like this, I really enjoy watching that. But as soon as, I'm sorry to say, but as soon as George Clooney was in the shot, I kind of lost interest a little bit because also it started feeling a little artificial. Like it's just so, I don't know if it's because it's so meta, but it's it's so artificial and it's you know that people are acting and it's just like ugh, I cannot really watch that. Somehow it's makes me cringe a little bit. Like a few things in this film really made me cringe of how I don't know, how artificial they seem, how acted they are, just like overly not real,
Yeah, yeah, I
just
totally get that.
plastic in a way.
Yeah, and I would say this is a bit intended, that it's a bit empty because I guess throughout the movie we get to know that, well, you mentioned it, that Jay Kelly and his relationship are empty as well. So if you
Hmm.
get that in this scene, I would say is a bit intended maybe.
Maybe that's true, but I don't know. I would say just generally speaking, it's not only just the character, but also some scenes and some um, sections of the film made me feel like that. It's not even necessarily just the character. For example, the scene in the train, it's just I felt like I am in just one big cheesy Nespresso commercial. I just could not watch that. I was just like, why? Ugh. I really I just cannot even put it into words. It was just so cheesy
No,
and
Nespresso commercial is
never
perfect.
ending.
Nespresso commercial is perfect. And yeah, what you mentioned, like it's cheesy, it's fake. And then I think in the first sequence, what I remember a bit is that, yeah, you hear like adulation and praises from like the crew towards Jay Kelly. And I guess that's what you mean a bit with, yeah, everything is fake or a bit over the top or very Hollywoodish.
Yeah,
And
and also like if you just think about how the characters are as soon as he gets to Europe, everybody's just so weird. People in Europe are normal. I don't
yeah,
understand why everybody just has to be so not even quirky. It's just
yeah, a bit over the top.
strange, just
Yeah,
odd. Yeah,
yeah.
really over the top odd.
Hmm. Yeah, that is true. Maybe maybe here I can lead in with my next question is, my question regarding this movie is a bit is, did Noah Baumbach wanted to create a satire, or is he maybe a bit enamored with Hollywood, or maybe
I
a bit
don't
of
know.
both?
That's a good question. But I just also feel like my problem with this film was that I couldn't really tell why I have to relate to this person. Because this is a person that is so far away from real life that I just don't really see that many points of connection where I can relate to this person, where I can maybe think that I can totally understand the struggle, you know. So I personally feel like it's not meant to be a satire. It's also ending with this reel of the shots from George Clooney films, which I found a little bit strange considering that they showed young George Clooney and then they also showed the actor that was playing the young Jay Kelly, which were definitely not looking so similar. So that was a
Yeah,
bit of a strange thing for me. But I
true.
just feel like this is a bit of a trap. Like this retrospective reel of films can feel melancholic and touching whoever it is. It doesn't have to be George Clooney, it can be anybody else. And it's just always meant to evoke this feeling. And there is, for me personally, I mean, not really any indication to show that it is a satire because it's also not funny. It's just cringeworthy, just like any Nespresso commercial is.
I guess the maybe the cringe worthiness is the satire. But yeah, I agree with some good points you brought up with the ending of the movie. Um, and here, this is I feel this is where I compare it to Babylon because if you remember in Babylon, was the characters the protagonist was called Mani
Oh, I have no
or
idea anymore.
well, anyway, and he is sitting in the movie, in the cinema at the end of the movie, and
Hmm.
he's watching. I think it's like a sequence of many Hollywood classics, and then he's like all in awe of all
Yeah.
this. And it's a bit similar here. I think George Clooney played that well, but yeah, I agree. The important or the interesting question is why can't we relate to Jay Kelly if we compare it to other movies of this type.
You know, also, the thing is, maybe this film is not about Jay Kelly, or not only because we spend a lot of time with a lot of other characters,
Yeah.
especially with Adam Sandler's character, Ron.
Hmm.
So maybe if you look at it from that perspective, it is a movie about Ron and how he basically put his whole life in the line to be with this infantile aging actor who he's worked for his whole life, and he considers him a friend, but he also works for him. And then there's this debate between the between Liz and Ron, the Laura Dern's character as well, where they talk about this. And I feel like his perspective, Ron's perspective in this story, is definitely more relatable than Jay Kelly's. So if we look at it from that angle, then maybe the story starts to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, Ron's character is more relatable because he's like a working man, a family man, and he has basically this choice between yeah, the struggle is how much time does he spend like with Jay Kelly with his work and how much does he want to be successful versus yeah, enjoying his time with his family, which he tries to do, like playing tennis with his daughter. And I think, doesn't he mention that they went to therapy as well or something along those lines? But yeah, I think that that struggle is maybe a bit more relatable, whereas George Clooney or Jay Kelly, it's about, yeah, what is his struggle actually? Well, I guess he also feels like he lost or he wants to make up the time he lost with his daughters because he chose his career over his daughters. And yeah, I think what he asks himself if it was all worth it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's one line in the film where he follows his daughter on a train to Italy, right? And then he says, I haven't spent enough time with you. You can't leave. he says, I haven't spent enough time with you. And it's just this whole, narcissistic thing going on. I don't know. Also, just the whole flashback situation. It's so voyeuristic in a way that he goes and he watches himself do some things, and even if you think about his argument with Tim, I think his name is his acting school friend. I mean, I can see that there is definitely some conflict in it, but it's almost not enough to feel like he did something so wrong and we have to condemn him for it. You see that it is a very cutthroat business and there is almost no room for friendship in this business. And still, it all feels like not enough to be anything in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I think I know what I mean. I guess what we'll try to figure out is how to put it into words, but I know the feeling you're talking about. I think narcissistic was a good word, that he is enamored with himself, with his past, and
Mm-hmm.
he's always the center of attention, or
Mm-hmm.
it's always about
Yeah.
him and not about he sort of wants to own up to that, or he wants to improve in that area, but not really. So yeah, so he doesn't put in the effort.
Well, also maybe he is telling the story to us, so he may be an unreliable narrator, right? So we don't necessarily have to take it at face value that this is how it happened. So he may feel like he didn't do anything bad, or may not really show it to us that way, but it might have happened differently because obviously Tim comes back into his life and kind of wants to claim some agency and remind him of the wrong that he did and that he got affected by it and basically had no acting career after it. So yeah, maybe we just shouldn't really take it as it's given to us. That is also another aspect, I guess.
Yeah, what I wanted to say before is that I feel like J. Kelly plays a bit of a victim sometimes
Oh yeah.
of his, and in the end, it's his own fault. So that's what's a bit irritating, and that he doesn't want to acknowledge that. And yeah, regarding Tim, and I'll get to into some more examples later, but I thought that this movie had some great quotes or lines, and Tim has one of them, which is the tragedy of parenting. We're only successful once we've made ourselves irrelevant. I don't know. I thought that was
Oh, I
interesting.
didn't I didn't write that one down, but it's a good one indeed. One thing that I was thinking about, and specifically that came to me while this scene with Tim was happening, when he just first comes up to him at this function that they're at, and he asks if maybe they can meet up sometime. Just give me a second. I want to find the quote where I wrote this down.
Yeah, I think it was after the funeral, right?
Yeah, here he asks if he can contact him, and he says, yeah, sure. And his manager gives him the card. So he knows the guy. They used to be friends. And yet it still goes through those kind of, you know, official channels of contact my manager, And then Ron also says there will be people there. It's just so strange. And what it made me think of was the experience I had this year at the Zurich Film Festival and being close to that, because obviously my guest was kind of a bigger person in the industry. And so for me to witness how this works was really surreal. And just to think that you cannot really have your life, you're not even almost responsible for your life anymore. Um, and you just follow certain protocols and you cannot just do whatever you want. It's just so strange to me. And when they were for example, there's this other scene when I think they were all already in Italy, and he takes out a wallet and it's empty. There are no cards, no cash in there, and it's just a totally different life. Why do
Yeah.
you even have a wallet? And
Yeah,
it's
that's
all just
also
accessories of normalcy that you are again only playing at because you are not partaking in the normalcy at all.
yeah. So the example with the wallet is like a great one that he doesn't
Yeah.
own cash or, and then Ron has to give Kelly some cash. I feel like this is something similar is also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Brad Pitt, who plays his stunt guy, is also like takes care of him, and
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, this is I guess one of the examples of the fakeness, and you
Yeah.
mentioned before the encounter with Tim, his old friend, and that whole exchange between oh, should we get back together and remember some old times, and that whole exchange feels very fake.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
And
it's also not sure if he's going to call him back or not. But then they decide to just go immediately after to have some beers.
mhm. Another thing that kind of went through my head while I was watching it, there was this other scene, or actually several scenes that talk about the fact that some actors choose to distance themselves from the official public image. So they have even, for example, just a pseudonym, um, a public persona in a way, but their private life is kept more secret, or they're just not as public as some other people that are very much in the limelight. And this kind of also made me think of the Zurich Film Festival, and the other kind of thing that I took away from this experience is that um, while you are being yourself, you have your name, people know who you are, people like in case with my guests know your whole family, right? And so it's just you are almost playing yourself all the time as well. And you can see that, for example, when he was doing interviews and Q&As, you can see this is part of his job, and he does this job really well, because coming on stage and being charismatic and joking and interacting with people, it feels like it comes naturally, but it also feels like this is what you have to do, and it's part of your job, and you have to cultivate it and you have to work it. And I think this is kind of what I mean, not relate to personally, but what I could see, that it's definitely something that is can be a problem for actors, that you kind of have to distance yourself from the public image and who you really are. But again, my question here is still, how how is that interesting to me personally? Because obviously it's almost as if it's just talking to its audience, its target audience is not everyone, but just the people in the industry. And it's a bit annoying because, yeah, okay, quirkiness, weird, so far-fetched from reality and normalcy, and yet, okay, I kind of knew that before. That's nothing new to me. And watching this narcissistic character go through this, Hmm. Yeah, okay. I don't
Yeah,
know.
totally. That's actually one of the questions I have written down here in my notes is this a movie for Hollywood people? And yeah, I agree here that it's maybe the target audience is Hollywood people, and maybe this is like an Oscar bait kind of movie. But it's still interesting. The question is, why does this movie work less as opposed to something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is similar. It also plays in Hollywood,
I
but
think it's
yeah,
just a
it's
totally
more approachable
different
maybe.
experience, I feel like, because
Yeah.
the while in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we do see a similar story, it's not the only story. And there are a lot of other elements that make it fun and watchable. And this one is solely about that. I mean, okay, we have the perspective of Adam Sandler's character, but ultimately it's the same topic. And while, again, we'll say it again, while it claims to be a comedy, it's not really that funny. And for me, that makes it less watchable.
Yeah, so I can think of one argument why this is maybe less interesting as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Babylon is because I guess here the internal struggle is more on the forefront of the movie, like Jay Kelly's struggles and what he's dealing with. Whereas in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, for example, we get scenes like where Brad Pitt is fighting Bruce Lee, or the break in at the end of the movie.
Hmm.
Or in Babylon, we have that amazing dance sequence at the beginning of the movie, or that creepy party with Tobey Maguire almost at the end. And here, like you said, it's yeah, it wants to be funny, I guess, but it isn't really. And it's always this, yeah, Jake Kelly is always on the forefront,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's hard to relate to someone who is on a completely different realm.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about the image, I think there's one scene where they are at the party in Tuscany, and then Jay Kelly and Ron are talking, and I think Ron mentioned something. Oh, look, you're up there, and he points to a poster, and then Jay Kelly says, "No, but I'm down here," and this. I think it's is talking a bit about what you said, like image of the actor on one side, then the characters they play, and thirdly, how they perceive themselves.
Yeah, I have 2 points on that actually, because again, if we talk about Ron, I think that if this movie was initially from only his perspective, it would be so much better and it would be more relatable. Because eventually, while Ron is part of the film industry, he is a working stick, basically. He is not an actor whose job is just in a, as you said, in a completely different realm of things. But you can relate to the perspective of a person who is trying to do his job as best as he can, who identifies with his work and with the people who he works for, and he doesn't get the recognition and the gratitude that he deserves, all the while neglecting his family. And I think this, if that was the whole idea, this would be a better film, I personally think. But that would involve making it completely different and giving more screen time to Ron and less to Jay Kelly, and Jay Kelly being just the basically the primary antagonist of the film.
Yeah, if we compare Ron and Jay Kelly a bit, and I think I mentioned it before, is that you said it a bit in some other words, is that Ron, his struggles are, I feel like, external, or that he has a choice. He has to choose between work and his family, I guess, is the main
Yeah.
struggle. But Jay Kelly is, I feel like he doesn't have like a choice to make. And his
Hmm.
struggles are self-inflicted.
Hmm.
So, and he doesn't seem to really care about, well, he thinks about, okay, what could I do? But he
Hmm.
doesn't really take any meaningful steps on
Yeah.
making, like, fixing his relationship with his daughters, or, and I guess maybe it's back to something we said a bit earlier, is that it's these characters not really listening to each other, especially Jake Kelly, if you will,
Yeah, for
because he's not
sure.
listening to his daughters.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings me to the second point that I wanted to make is that while we are witnessing his inner struggle, I feel like what we are seeing is a narcissist who is trying to feel bad for those things, or generally to feel anything, but he kind of doesn't know how to. Like as if he kind of knows that he should, but he just doesn't know how to do it. So from that perspective, I feel like yes, it kind of makes sense because he never really, at least I don't see him struggle with it so much that it destroys him or really makes him feel so bad. He is just so lost. And again, what they claim it is that he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know who he is, an empty vessel, as I think they say at one point. And that is why he doesn't know how to feel about it, because all he can do is act the feelings out, but not maybe go through these feelings himself.
Yeah, the empty vessel is, I think, one of the quotes that explains what you were talking about. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't remember if he said that when he was talking to Tim, but it's like sort of Jay Kelly's method in how he acts. And yeah, I guess we see that also a bit. That is what he enjoys when he goes into the strip, that he is in touch with people because he feels like, oh, I need to be close to the people and feel stuff.
Yeah, but that even that is just the fakeness of it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
It's not real. It's just what he says, but
yeah.
that's not really what it is. It is actually in the conversation with Tim. That's what Tim says to him. He says, I don't think you want to meet that guy, when he says that it was good to go on this memory lane with Tim and remember himself at this age. And he says, I don't think you want to meet that guy. Then he says, you stole my life. You are an empty vessel. Is there even a person in there?
And for me, the other really important quote who explains a lot of Jay Kelly's struggle is, um,
Oh, you know what? Can I interrupt you? Because I just
go
had an
ahead.
idea. Because
Yes.
if we think about Tim, right? What they are talking about, what they're discussing, is that he is a method actor and he's always been a good method actor, as opposed to, I guess, Jay Kelly. And then he starts walking him through the process of how he invokes those feelings in himself to make himself cry and read this kind of menu as a scene to him. That would require having had those feelings. So I think he goes through some steps that he kind of puts himself in a memory or in a state that he used to have in a certain moment in his life. And that's how he's able to imitate it again for the sake of a scene. And I think that is maybe the scene that is meant to show that Tim, through going through this method acting method, right? He is shown to have those feelings, which Jay is kind of opposed to, basically.
Yeah, that's crucial that Jay doesn't want to have these feelings, right? I don't know, my metaphor is like Jay Kelly's like a sponge. He absorbs it and then spits
Hmm.
it out again. So he's never really full.
Hmm.
Great metaphor.
Yeah. Well, an
But
empty
yeah, he's
vessel.
sort of he's like a vessel, and then he doesn't have anything that he owns himself. And yeah, I guess you can also see that when he joins his daughter in this therapy session, that once confronted with some feeling, he just wants to go and wants to run out of there, and he doesn't own up to having these feelings. The other important quote that I wanted to mention that explains a lot for me in this movie is when he's having this talk with the director, Jim Broadbent,
Uh-huh,
who
yeah.
plays Peter Schneider. And yeah, I thought that scene in the kitchen was great. And the line that really resonated with me is all my memories are movies, and they are pieces of time. And yeah, that's basically Jay Kelly lives in his movies, sort of, that he doesn't have any real experiences on his own, at least this character, which is a bit different than what you hear lots of times when you watch these interviews with actors, that well, actors usually don't reminisce about their roles too much. They don't like to watch themselves. And they do actually have a lot of stories about things that happen on set. So Jay Kelly is a bit different than most actors, but the way he is portrayed in the film is that he's enamored with watching things from his past. I think Leo's character does that as well, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he watches his old movies. So yeah, a bit different from reality, from what I hear, but I mean, yeah, that's what how it is portrayed in the movie.
Hmm.
Well, I have one last, well, maybe two or more things to say. The really fun scene for me was what I really loved was when Adam Sandler is talking to Patrick Wilson, and they
Mm.
have this meeting where they're meeting for a drink, and basically Patrick Wilson is letting go of Adam Sandler as his manager.
Hmm.
And I thought it was quite hilarious how over the top this was that Adam starts to cry, and well, both of them almost start to cry, and like you said, yeah, it's over the top, but that's, I guess, here the satire works a bit. That it's like,
Yeah, this scene is very, you can reflect on this scene because I really liked Adam Sandler in it, I must say. That was one of the good ones. And so what's the actor's name? Ben is the actor's name, right? And he is along with Jay Kelly. Ben is also Ron's client, and he basically comes to him and he wants to tell him that he is fired, right? So that he fires Ron as his agent, or as his manager. Um, and he starts crying, yes, but at the same time, afterwards, we get a scene between Jay Kelly and Ben where Ben is surrounded by his family. He has lots of people that came with him to this event. And I guess this is a point where Jay Kelly is kind of jealous of him. He has it all kind of. And we have just seen him be a good guy and feel so bad about firing his manager because they spent a lot of time together as well. But then he goes on to say, they're really not our friends. We just pay them. And so you know that this was basically acted out. Like the scene between him and Ron was acted out and it was not real. And all those tears and all those feelings and emotions were not real. And it just, again, it just adds to the fakeness of the business that you were kind of aware of anyway when you go into it, I guess. But yeah, I think that was a good scene, and the scene that comes after kind of makes it flips it on its head.
yeah, that's a good point. Regarding the fakeness, I was also a bit surprised. Well, yeah, surprised, I guess. But I think it was a nice touch is that in his conversation with Ben, Ron talks to him also like he is his puppy, like this endearing term. And at first I thought, oh, puppy is just something that he only calls George Clooney, but apparently he calls all his clients puppy. So
Hmm.
where you think, oh, this is a special name for this person, but no, it's he
Hmm.
used it with everyone. So even in these sort of like little things, you can see the fakeness of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to close with the beginning, which is actually this quote. It's a hell of a responsibility to be yourself. It's much easier to be somebody else or nobody at all. And yeah, this also explains Jay Kelly's character really well, I feel like, because yeah, he doesn't want to be himself, or he doesn't want to deal with the responsibility of it. And that's why he is basically, yeah, like I said, an empty vessel, or he's a sponge.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think still, even after our discussion, the question still remains for me personally, um, who this movie is for. what the target audience of this film is, and how am I, as a regular person not from Hollywood, am supposed to relate to it. I still personally don't believe that it is supposed to be a satire. I don't think it's has enough bite to be satirical. I might be wrong. I don't know. Tell us what you think. Um, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Also, maybe just to add that for me personally, this is the film that didn't Noah Baumbach's film that did not work for me, unlike his other films that I have previously seen.
No, I agree. I'm on the same page with you that it doesn't have enough bite to be a satire. Like I said, I do agree. This is, I think, a movie for the people of Hollywood, if you can call them that. And there has been this trend of directors like reflecting on their filmography and on filmmaking, and I would rather watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again or Babylon because I think those films are more entertaining and more relatable as well.
Hmm.
So these are our thoughts for Jay Kelly. Thanks
Hmm.
for listening. And what should I leave you with?
Yes, indeed. What should it be?
Oh, here, I just a nice Nicolas Cage popped on my screen, and this isn't the one that I was going to go with, but killing me won't bring back your goddamn honey.
Oh my God, it's getting better and better. Okay, that's great. That is great. A great quote to close off the session.
Totally fitting for this movie. Thanks for listening and catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.